Now let's move on to the third case on the docket. And before I do that, I want to remind you to call in. You guys make the show work. 1-800-222-5222. We need you to give us your live testimony. This one is a doozy. We all have been to one of the happiest places on the planet, Disneyland. Who hasn't been to Disneyland? Pirates of the Caribbean, It's a Small World, Matterhorn, and one of my favorites, Space Mountain. Now, this third case on the docket involves a disabled visitor at Disneyland. This young man was in a wheelchair. He was severely handicapped. And in fact, let me discuss with you some of his unfortunate ailments. The young man suffered from spinal muscular atrophy. He was completely paralyzed. He communicated only with facial expressions, and he relied on a ventilator to breathe. And what happened in this case is we all have been in that long line at Disneyland trying to get on a ride. And I'll bet you, all of you that are listening, that many of you were impatient as well when you were in that line. Now imagine what happened here. This young man was in line in his wheelchair. He then gets on a ride at Disneyland, and apparently the lower bar did not latch low enough on the ride such that when the ride moved forward, this young man was catapulted out of his wheelchair and was seriously injured. In fact, it was alleged in the lawsuit. This is a lawsuit brought by the mother on behalf of the disabled young man, and it was alleged that he was crushed in the bottom of the car. And my question on this third case on the docket is, should a severely handicapped patron be barred and prevented from entering moving rides at all amusement parks? That is the question on the third case on the docket. And let me give you my preliminary view on this. You may be a little bit surprised, and then I want to hear from you. We need to hear from you to call in on this. 1-800-222-5222. My preliminary ruling on this case is that individuals who are severely handicapped should be barred from entering onto moving rides at all amusement parks, including Disneyland. Is that really a place where they should be? Focusing on this case in particular, this young man had a ventilator. He was paraplegic. He was in a wheelchair. Do you think that it really was fair to require Disneyland to have equipment that is tailored specifically for an individual in a wheelchair who's atrophied, paralyzed, and who relies on a ventilator to breathe? Is that too much to ask of an amusement park like Disneyland or Six Flags or any amusement park across the country? Is this some form of discrimination based on my preliminary ruling? And that is my preliminary ruling. And I also want you to tell me, I'm going to twist it up a little bit here on this last segment we have here. I want to add another extension of a question is, do you believe that my preliminary ruling is discriminatory in some fashion? So again, my preliminary ruling is that Disneyland and other amusement parks should not be required to equip their rides in a fashion that would accommodate a severely disabled or handicapped patron. That I believe that is an onerous or cumbersome task for these amusement parks. Now, before we take some live testimony, let me tell you why it is again that I believe that Disneyland should not be required to equip these rides, because we have many people in line who want to go on this ride, And before I tell you more about the basis of my preliminary finding, again, I need to hear from you, 1-800-222-5222. We need to take a short recess. You're listening to Courtroom 790. More of your testimony coming up after the break. This is Judge Brian Claypool on Talk Radio 790 KABC.
You've heard the evidence. Now, render your verdict. Call Courtroom 790 now. 800-ABC KABC. That's 800-222-5222. This is Courtroom 790.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. This is Judge Brian Claypool in Courtroom 790, filling in today for the Judge Leo Terrell on Talk Radio 790 KABC. 1-800-222-5222. The third case on our docket today involves a place we always love to go. And I took my little girl there last week to Disneyland. This case involves a woman that filed a lawsuit on behalf of her son. He was severely disabled. In fact, he was paralyzed, in a wheelchair, had a ventilator he relied on to breathe, and he was riding a ride called Monsters Inc. And apparently the bottom of the latch on the seat he was in didn't connect properly, and he was catapulted out of the ride. And his injuries were such that his ventilator fell out. He suffered a broken left leg, nosebleed, scratch on his head, according to the lawsuit. And the question was, should severely disabled patrons be barred from moving rides at amusement parks? My preliminary opinion in this case is that they should be barred. And I want to take a phone call. Live testimony from Marlena.
Hi.
Hi, Marlena. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, so help me God.
What say you on this case?
Well, I'm a mother, and like I was mentioning, I don't want to make the mother sound as if she's incompetent, but I have two kids, and thank God, I always, say thank you for letting them be healthy with no problems, but as being a mother, knowing the fact that your child has, a severe disability and on a ventilator, why would on earth put a child on a ride? Not only that, but if it was a ride that was specifically where handicapped can also go on the ride, that would be perfectly fine. Especially if it's a ride that, knowing the fact that it wasn't latching on well, and also the attendant did a double check,
well,
and
that's a great point. And Marlene, you're making a great point about if the mom was looking and saw that the latch wasn't going in, why didn't she say something? And quite frankly, why are you putting somebody who's severely disabled on a ride like this? There's a lot of other joy that you can take in at Disneyland without going on that ride. But I really appreciate your testimony, Marlena. Thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
Let me take one more call. Tom, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
What's your thought on this, Tom?
I think Disneyland can afford to have a thing for just handicapped people only, a section where they can ride it. Whatever it costs, they have the money. There can't be a problem with that.
You think
what I would say is, these people have got to bring a note from the doctor that says, yes, he's able to ride on that kind of a ride. So when the smoke clears, they don't get sued Disneyland when something like this happens.
Yeah, Tom, don't you think that people tend to blame others too much, maybe? I mean, shouldn't it be the responsibility of the family, too, to make a calculated decision to not put this young man who can't make the decision at risk to ride a ride like this?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But I'm also saying your money is no object. They could put the guy in a Cadillac.
You got it.
Right around the roller coaster.
Point well taken, Tom. Thank you for your valued testimony. We got to take a short final recess. You're listening to Courtroom 790. This is Judge Brian Claypool sitting in for Judge Leo Terrell on Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Courtroom 790 is in momentary recess. More to come after the break on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Oyez, oyez, oyez. Courtroom 790 is back in session.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. This is Judge Brian Claypool in Courtroom 790, filling in for Judge Leo Terrell. We were on case 3 on the docket, and this case dealt with a lawsuit filed by a mother of a disabled young man who was injured on a ride at, of all places, Disneyland. And my preliminary ruling in this case was that severely handicapped patrons should be barred from participating on moving rides at all amusement parks. And that is my preliminary ruling. I'm going to take one more phone call, some live testimony from Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Brian.
Hi. Do you swear to tell the truth? Is your right hand up? All right.
It's up.
You're busted. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What say you on this case?
I agree with you. When you walk around any of these parks, you see signs everywhere in front of each particular ride saying what the cautions are, who should or shouldn't get on this ride, do it at your own risk. I'm fully able-bodied, and I, go to Knott's Berry Farm, and there's a sign that says if you have neck injuries or, there's a whiplash effect, and so you shouldn't be on this ride. So I'm like, okay, I can't get on that ride. And it's like that in park and after park, and ride after ride. You have to have the common sense to not get on that ride and put yourself at risk. The park can't run interference for you. I think the only glitch in this is that the person at the park let this person get on the ride, but that's another issue.
Right. Yeah. No, I appreciate your testimony, Julie, and I tend to agree with you. And I'm going to enter into right now my final decision on this case. Even though it might be an unpopular decision, I feel like society at times blames the business owner a little bit too much. And I think common sense rules here that the mother of the young man should have realized that her son was severely handicapped, had a ventilator, and watched him getting on the ride. She should have seen that the ride was not equipped for him, and she should take responsibility for making an imprudent decision to allow her son to be on that ride, and it's not Disneyland's responsibility to equip these machines for everybody on the planet. That's my final ruling.